Hello there, welcome to this presentation for the Ironman 17.3 Exmoor 2017. Before we get started, if your quality of your screen or these slides is not that great, please go into your settings and select for ATP quality, and that should improve it a bit. We will be looking today at the base phase for Wimbleball 70.3 event. So I will be doing some introductions with regards Try Training Harder and myself. We shall be looking at your Ironman plan for the season. We shall look at some macro phasing with regards Wimbleball 70.3 event. We'll briefly talk about the testing protocols and the results and what to do with those. This phase, the base phase, is a time to focus on weaknesses, get that sorted now, and hopefully that will eliminate any problems down the line when the training picks up a bit and the volume increases. We'll go through how to find and apply a plan, and then we'll go through some key points on the base phase. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the blog, into the chat box, and I shall try and answer them as I go. If I'm unable to answer them as I go, we shall get back to you at a later stage. Right, Try Training Harder. It's a British-based company specializing in triathlon training. We have a number of platforms in which we deliver our coaching. Firstly, we have the holiday camps where we will deliver face-to-face coaching. So it would be very nice to see everybody out there and get involved in some training in that respect. If, however, you want to look at something different, there is always the online coaching option. That can be tailored to suit your needs and your schedule. If you want to inquire about that, it's coaching@trytrainingharder.com. Mainly based in the UK, we run clinics, and again, mainly for swimming. It's a good opportunity to come and get continued observation in your progress and direction on how to improve and so forth. And then, of course, we have the TRIplans platform, which is what we will be looking at through this webinar. Then introducing myself, as you can see, my name is Trevor Perkins. I am a level 2 qualified British triathlon coach. I have a sports science degree, and I'm part of the Try Training Harder coaching team, specializing in the holiday camp coaching as well as online coaching. I've been involved in triathlon since 1994, and quite possibly more importantly for you guys, Wimbleball 70.3, the Exmoor event, is local to where I live. So I'm well aware of the terrain and what you will be faced on race day. So hopefully that will assist with making recommendations in your training. Planning out your season, we'll have a look at an annual plan. An annual plan or a macro plan is generally the whole year plan, which could be shorter than 12 months, could be 12 months, it could also be 18 months, could be dependent on the race and the event and the number of events you're doing in a year. But for the purpose of the Exmoor event, Wimbleball, we will be looking at your macro phase as being January to June. You'll notice that there are 3 cycles and 3 phases within this particular plan. The 3 cycles being your macro phase, which is Wimbleball is January to June. The next cycle will be your meso phase, which is monthlies. So the macro cycle broken down into blocks of 4 weeks, and then those blocks of 4 weeks are broken down into weekly, which is your micro cycle. The phases of the training plan will be the base, the build, and the competition, as indicated by the color highlighted blocks under your macro phase. So we'll be taking a look just at this particular event as being your macro phase, as I said, from January to June. A couple of other things you might notice on there, you might be questioning. At the end of a base phase, we've got a holiday week. Now I know it spans 2 weeks, so the option there is to choose either one of those weeks, or if you like, both of those weeks, to actually do a big block of training, possibly overloaded training. And this will set you up quite nicely for your build phase. Now the beauty would be, and the nice thing would be, is if you could join us in the Algarve in Portugal for that holiday week. And the nice thing with that is if we get quite a few of you guys that are doing this particular event or events similar and at a similar time of the year, we could tailor the training week to suit the demands of your A race. Further on down, you'll see in yellow again, 2 weeks as suggested standard race events. Now it's not to suggest that you want to do a race on both of those weeks. It's either one of those weeks would be preferable. The beauty with that is keep you focused, give you something to aim for before the main race, but also to put in place some practice, so practicing any strategy that you may come up with or would like to try and bring into your event. Certainly have a practice at T1 and T2. Make sure those transitions are well drilled and slick. It's all free time. The quicker you can go through transition, the easier things will become with regards to timings, because it's free time. So practice that. The other thing I believe that a race at this point will do is the nature of a competitive environment potentially has the impetus, has the possibility to give you the impetus to really focus on those last few weeks in the competition phase, and to hone all the training that you've done through the base and the build phase. At this point, you've pretty much got 4 weeks to go until your race. You don't want to be giving away any of the fitness that you've gained. So that's pretty much what your annual plan is going to look like. Of course, you can take these plans, you can add notes to it, you can add in things like travel and time away from training and so forth, and then see how that impacts on your training load. Right, so what makes our training plans unique? Well, they're unique in that if you were to download a plan from elsewhere on the internet or pull one out of a magazine, for example, those plans are set in print when you get them from start to finish. There's very little opportunity of changing what's on there unless you rewrite them. So you then start adjusting your schedule to fit the plan, whereas these plans, our plans, the Try Training Harder plans, are designed so that each phase is selected as you get to it. So you manipulate it and you change it according to your improvements as you go through your training. So on the plans, you'll see we have certain information that we need to input to populate it in order to tailor the plan to suit your schedule, to make it unique to you, and make it very flexible. Well, you can see in the boxes on the left, you've got your macro phase that you'll be putting in. Of course, what we're talking about at the moment is the base phase for the Wimbleball event. So I'm going to refer to phase as base phase for the rest of this discussion. The distance on this particular graphic, it shows a long course distance, but of course we'll be looking at the middle distance, 70.3 distance. Your discipline, well, a bit self-explanatory. You're either going to choose swim, bike, or run. You're going to fit it into a schedule, so you're going to be selecting how many sessions per week you can do of that discipline. It is a time to be realistic and not select something that is not achievable, because the plan needs to be structured according to the information you give it. And then, of course, the ability that you're going to select will be the results from the testing that you would have already done. And in this case, for swimming, your CSS time. All right, so we'll move on and actually go through some steps on populating all of this. In order to do just that on a plan, you need to go to www.trytrainingharder.com. The web page will open as such, and you will then hover over coaching in the top left-hand corner. The drop-down menu will appear. Scroll down to about halfway down, which you can see highlighted in red, to TRIplans, and select the TRIplans. The TRIplans page will open, and then you start scrolling down the page for some options. We'll be looking at the do-it-yourself option during this webinar. Of course, if you have some concerns or some situations that may need to that may influence how your plan looks, and you may need some guidance, you can use coach assisted for that, and certainly in the future you can do that as well. If you progress and want more sort of focused coaching and so forth, you can contact us on coaching at Try Training Harder, and a coach will be assigned to work with you. Right, so we're on to populating this now. We will be selecting base phase for this particular plan. The distance you want to select is middle distance 70.3. We're going to select the swim discipline for this plan. And if you can do 3 a week, great. If you can't, you will obviously select 2. If you can do more, then you will select what is appropriate to what you can do. You'll then populate the CSS per 100 meter with the results from your testing. In this case, I'm going to use 125 to 135 per 100 meter swim pace. Okay, once we've got all of that in, it's quite simply go down to the red button and click on Get Your Plans. That will collate the plan according to the information you've put into it. You then click on the download button to get your plan. If at this point you feel that you haven't quite put the information in the way you would like, you can simply reset and start again by pushing the reset button. Once you've done that, and the plan will appear in this format, basically what this page is telling you is what you are about to buy. You need to just check this, make sure you're happy with what you've put in and what you are buying. So we can see from this one, it's 3 sessions per week. Yours will say middle distance 70.3 swim plan. So you need to obviously check distance and discipline over there. Then you can see athlete with the CSS of 125 to 135 per 100 meter swim pace, and this is for the base phase. If all of that is correct, you may simply push the green button and purchase this plan. What you will notice just next to the green button is a dollar amount, and that is because Training Peaks is a states-based company. Next to the dollar amount, you'll see that you're purchasing your plan, your 3 sessions per week, middle distance, athlete, CSS, 125 to 135, base model for 8 weeks. So you know you're getting what you intended to buy. You'll then go on to the checkout page, confirm information, and make your purchase. In Training Peaks, in order to get those plans into your Training Peaks, you go to the training plan library on the left-hand side, 3rd icon down, as you can see highlighted by the little ribbon that says Training Plan Library. Click on that, and it will bring up the plans you have purchased. Select the one appropriate for this particular event. So you can see there we've got 3 sessions per week. Again, in your case, middle distance 70.3, athlete width, and it goes on to say CSS 125, 135, base phase, 8 weeks. Then what you'll do on the pop-up window in the middle of the screen, you will scroll down to the start date. Now this is quite important because the start date for Wimbleball training's 24-week plan is the 9th of January. If for any reason you're unable to start training on the 9th, hypothetically, you might have a business trip, you might be away for 2 days and get back and only start training on the 11th. Still select the 9th as your start date. The reason being is that it will populate your training peaks according to the race, in other words, to the end date. So if you choose a later start date, it moves everything closer to your race date, and it puts things like tapers, rest weeks and so forth out of sync in order to get the best result. So if you can't start before the 9th, or if the 9th has passed by the time you actually do this, then just select the 9th. Simply ignore the sessions that have gone in the past that you've missed. Either leave them there or delete them from your plan if you don't want to see them. But you still use the 9th as the start date. Of course, on this particular image, you'll see that it says December 2016, Monday the 5th. Basically, it's just for illustration. So it's 9th of January is your start date. Okay, so once you've done all of that, the last thing to do is simply to apply it. So you go down to the right at the bottom of that pop-up window and push apply, select that. It will then apply the sessions to your Training Peaks page. Again, it says Monday the 5th, but that will say Monday the 9th, January 2017. You've got a bit of a welcome and then all your swim sessions placed into your calendar. Now, at this point, again, the uniqueness and flexibility of the Try Training Harder TRIplans allows you to move those around. A good example, your swimming pool may not be open on a Tuesday. So to suggest you swim on a Tuesday is obviously not going to work. So you can pick those and drag them and move them to a day that suits. The only advice I would offer here then is if you are needing to move sessions around, make sure you move other sessions accordingly so that you don't overload any one part of a week. So just be sensible with that. If you're struggling with that, or if you have some bigger issues and concerns, please contact coaching at Try Training Harder, and we shall be able to assist you with that. Okay, so we've pretty much gone through a trial plan for swimming. We won't do the same for the bike and the run, but you would need to do the same for the bike and the run, of course, so that your full training plan will be populated with all 3 disciplines. Now, of course, again, coming back to the flexibility of Try Training Harder's TRIplans, is that if you don't feel the need to have a plan for any one of the 3 disciplines, for example, you may be a very accomplished swimmer coming out off of a competitive swimming background and so forth. Well, you simply don't need to select what you don't want. You select only what you want so that you only pay for what you want. However, saying that, all of the training sessions are based on the information you give in the way of performance. So all the times and data collected during testing will give you training appropriate to your ability and appropriate to the event you're going to do. So I would encourage you to buy all 3 disciplines and have them populate your training calendar. And that way you've got a good model to follow, good plan. You've got the instructions, there's no guesswork. And it more importantly, it makes you accountable for your training. And then it makes the results all the more sweet at the end of the day. So then just looking generally at what are the objectives of the base phase. Well, as you can see from point 1, we want to establish a routine of training, keep everything consistent. The importance of doing this during the base phase is all the other phases, everything else builds off the base phase. So the more consistent you can keep the base phase, the less amount of gaps within the training during that time, obviously the better. So try and establish a routine that works really well, try and stick to it and keep it consistent. Now, of course, during this time, you might have to move things around as your life evolves around your training and your training around your life. But it is during this time that it's important to try and establish the right routine that you're going to carry through to the build phase and the competition phase. A second objective which to consider during this phase is, of course, your functional movement. The reason why I say that is moving badly is very inefficient and very costly in the way of energy. So the more efficient you can move in any one of the 3 disciplines, the less energy you are going to need to spend on doing so. And of course, the better the result is going to be at the end of the day on race day. Now, if you look below point number 2, the 4 points there, strength, posture, coordination, and stability, I believe that those don't come in order of more important to less important. I feel that they're all equally as important. So my recommendation now is to consider your posture, consider your coordination, consider your stability right at this point in time. And if you feel there's any weaknesses or anything that needs correcting, then consider adding in some strength and conditioning work to address those limits. And then down the line in the future, readdress the whole thing as you've gained strength, coordination, and stability through your training, through your strength and conditioning, reassess, and based on the improvements you're making, adjust your strength and conditioning program to suit. Now, that sounds very easily said and not very easy to do if you're not quite sure what you need to be looking at. So I would recommend that you have a chat to a sports physio and let them do an assessment and give you feedback on those areas, posture, coordination, and stability. And then, of course, recommendations on how to address them. And then revisit it a couple of times in the year just to monitor your progress and to keep it moving forward. Again, during the base phase, a very key thing to try and focus on is maintaining your health. In order to be able to keep everything consistent, you need to stay healthy so you don't have ill days and days away from training. So be smart with what you do, be smart with your nutrition, and don't push yourself to the point of picking up an injury. This is a foundation building phase. Keep it as that. As you can see, the foundation, a strong foundation will allow you to avoid injury and build that platform that the other phases will certainly feed off of. In order to avoid those injuries, this is certainly not the point where personal bests should be a target for you. So when it says no heroics, that's what we mean. If you are training, you don't need to be beating yesterday's times or challenging your mates to a sprint. And if they want to do that, let them go off and do it. Stick to your focus of the base phase, because the result could be that you end up building strength and keep going throughout the training season, whereas your mates that are trying to set those personal bests at the wrong time in the season end up injured and sitting on the sofa. Okay, so basically what we're trying to get is you want to set yourself up during this base phase for the next phase, build and comp. Another thing to consider during this phase, mainly so that you can take the stress away from you later on when training ramps up and becomes more stressful in itself, is to sort out the event, what you're going to do, where you're going to stay, how you're going to get there, booking your leave from work, etc. All of those things are stress. The body doesn't recognize stress differently between mental stress and physical stress. In a sense, it's all stress, it all taxes you, it all makes you tired. So eliminate those stresses early on in the training season so that you don't have them later on. Now, the one piece of advice directly related to the Exmoor Wimbleball 70.3 event I'm going to give you here relating to stress and travel, etc., is Wimbleball Lake, if you don't know it, is it's in the National Reserve in the Moors in Somerset. The roads leading to the venue are very narrow. So getting there in the morning for registration, or during the day for registration, getting there in the morning of the race can be a little bit more taxing. You need to plan it and administer it quite well. In that, to get the traffic in and out of the venue, the organisers create a one-way flow system. So quite often you have to stand in a queue or be parked up in a queue waiting for traffic to come from the other direction before you go. So you could end up in queues for quite a while. Give yourself the time to get there so that you don't stress yourself out too much, because race day is the last thing you want is to build stress and start a race all anxious. Okay, so any questions? If you have, please pop them on the chat or send them to coaching@TRItraining-harder, and we shall address those. The next steps, go along, download your plans as we have discussed, fill them in, do what you need to do, review them, look at them, think of them, pop them onto Training Peaks, and then get yourself started. The next webinar will be Monday, the 6th of March, and at 8 p.m. again, and we will discuss the build phase. And hopefully during that time, I will be able to give you a lot more specific detail of events and how you should consider structuring some of your training. Thank you very much for listening to me today. Goodbye.